When stars brought hope. The night sky above Nevada's desert base lit up like a Christmas tree. Commander Sarah Chen stood at her observation post, watching what appeared to be a meteor shower transform into something far more deliberate. The objects weren't burning up, they were slowing down. Status report, she barked into her comm unit, eyes fixed on the descending lights. 7 objects, Commander. Definitely controlled descent patterns. Too precise to be natural, Lieutenant Rodriguez responded, his voice steady despite the situation. Sarah had trained for this moment her entire career, but nothing could truly prepare anyone for humanity's first contact. The objects, clearly ships now, arranged themselves in a perfect hexagon formation, with one in the center. They hovered approximately 2,000 feet above the desert floor, their silvery hulls reflecting the moonlight. All stations maintain position, weapons on standby, but do not target unless I give the order. Sarah kept her voice calm, knowing the next few minutes would make history, one way or another. The central ship began its final descent, touching down with impossible grace for something its size. It resembled a massive toe drop, easily 300 feet tall, its surface rippling like liquid mercury. The other ships remained airborne, maintaining their formation. Radiation readings, Sarah asked. Nothing dangerous, Commander, but we're picking up some unusual energy signatures. Nothing in our database matches. A seam appeared in the landed vessel's side, spreading into an opening that reminded Sarah of blooming flower petals. Light spilled out, not harsh or artificial, but soft and organic, like sunrise through morning mist. What emerged first wasn't an alien warrior or an intimidating diplomatic party. It was a child, or at least something that looked very much like a child. Its skin was pale lavender, with silvery markings that seemed to shift and move. Large, almond-shaped eyes reflected the spotlights from the base. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't anything like the first contact scenarios they'd trained for. The childlike being raised its hands, empty palms forward, and behind it emerged others. Women, Sarah realized with growing surprise. Dozens of them, all with varying shades of lavender and blue skin, but the same shifting markings and expressions that Sarah recognized instantly despite their alien features: exhaustion, fear, and hope. Commander, Rodriguez's voice crackled through the comm. We're picking up a transmission. Well, ma'am, it's in English. Put it through. A gentle voice filled Sarah's earpiece, melodic despite its wariness. People of Earth, we come seeking sanctuary. We are the last of the Luminari, and we have traveled far to find you. Our sensors indicate your species is compatible. Please, we have children. Sarah looked at the assembled group. Now she could see that many of the women were supporting each other, some clearly injured, others protecting smaller figures that had to be more children. This wasn't an invasion force. This was a rescue mission. I am Commander Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. You will not be harmed. Sarah spoke clearly, knowing her words would make history. We need to follow quarantine protocols, but we will help you. The relief on their faces was unmistakable, transcending species barriers. The first speaker stepped forward, her silver markings glowing softly. I am Lyra, first speaker of the Luminari survivors. We number 312, all female, all that remains of our civilization. Over the next hours, as medical teams in containment suits began careful screening procedures, Lyra shared their story. The Luminari had been a peaceful species, advanced in biotechnology and stellar engineering. Their ability to manipulate light and energy had made them targets. A warrior race, the Vorax, had attacked without warning, seeking to harvest Luminari abilities for weapons. The women before them were scientists, artists, teachers, and the children they managed to save. Our men stay behind, Lyra explained, her voice heavy with grief. They gave us time to escape with the children. We've been running for what you would call 3 Earth years, looking for a compatible world. Your species, your DNA, it's remarkably similar to ours. We didn't think such a thing was possible. Sarah found herself seated across from Lyra in a hastily established quarantine meeting room, separated by transparent barriers. The alien woman's exhaustion was evident, but so was her dignity. "Why Earth?" Sarah asked. "There must be countless planets." Lyra's markings shifted, creating patterns that seemed to convey emotion. "Your broadcasts. We've been receiving them for decades. Music, art, stories of hope and perseverance. But most importantly, your diversity. Earth doesn't just tolerate differences, you celebrate them. We need that. Our children need that." The implications of their arrival were staggering. Earth's first alien contact wasn't with conquerors or distant diplomats, but refugees seeking sanctuary. And they were all female, from a species apparently genetically compatible with humans. Within days, as news of the arrival spread, the world's governments scrambled to respond. The United Nations convened an emergency session. Scientists began careful biological studies. But what captured the world's attention were the children, luminary young who played with light itself, creating dancing patterns in the air, their laughter transcending species barriers. Sarah found herself appointed as the primary liaison to the luminary. She worked closely with Lyra, establishing protocols for integration and protection. The 6 ships that remained airborne carried their technological legacy, libraries of scientific knowledge, cultural artifacts, and the tools they'd need to build a new life. "There's something else you should know," Lyra told Sarah one evening, a week after their arrival. "The Vorax, they'll come looking eventually. We've hidden our trail well, used every trick we know, but they're relentless." Sarah nodded, having expected something like this. "Then we'll be ready. Earth has survived every challenge we faced. We'll survive this one too." What neither of them knew then was how this arrival would change both species forever. The genetic compatibility Lyra mentioned wasn't just theoretical. As the luminary began to integrate into human society, something unprecedented would emerge, a bridge between 2 species, born of hope, survival, and the inexplicable paths of evolution. But that was still to come. For now, Sarah watched as human medical teams cared for luminary children, as scientists from both species shared discoveries with growing excitement, and as the first tentative steps toward a new future took shape in the Nevada desert. The stars had brought Earth an unexpected gift, not conquest or competition, but a chance to prove that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its weapons or technology, but in its capacity for compassion, adaptation, and love. Looking at the shimmering ships under the desert sky, Sarah Chen smiled. Humanity's next great adventure was just beginning. Bonds beyond stars. 3 months after the luminary arrival, the Nevada desert base had transformed into something unprecedented. What began as a military installation now resembled a small city, its new structures gleaming with a combination of human and luminary architecture. Solar panels merged with crystalline light collectors, creating rainbow refractions across the desert landscape. Dr. Marcus Rivera adjusted his lab coat as he reviewed the latest medical scans. As head of the Human Luminary Medical Integration Team, he'd witnessed enough miracles in the past weeks to fill a career. But today's discovery left him speechless. Dr. Rivera, Lieutenant Emma Parker, his Human Luminary Liaison Officer, entered the lab. Her usual military precision was somewhat softened by the presence of 2 luminary children who often followed her around, fascinated by her red hair. "You called for an urgent meeting." "Look at this," Marcus said, projecting a holographic display, another gift of luminary technology. These are cellular interaction studies between human and luminary tissue samples. The display showed something remarkable. Human and luminary cells weren't just compatible, they were actively strengthening each other. The luminary's natural bioluminescence seemed to enhance human cellular regeneration, while human DNA provided a stability to luminary cellular structures they'd never achieved before. "It's like they were made for each other," Emma whispered, watching the dance of cells. A soft voice came from the doorway. "Perhaps we were." Lara entered, her silver markings glowing gently in the lab's dim light. 3 months on Earth had restored her health, though her eyes still carried the weight of their people's journey. First speaker, Marcus nodded respectfully. These findings, they're unprecedented. As are these, Lara replied, producing her own data crystal. When inserted into the holographic system, it displayed statistics from the Luminari community. Our people are healthier than we've been in generations. The children are showing accelerated development, and our natural abilities are strengthening. The implications were staggering. The Luminari weren't just surviving on Earth, they were thriving. Their natural ability to manipulate light and energy was growing stronger, and their infamous genetic instability, a result of ancient engineering by their ancestors, was stabilizing. But there was more. There's something else, Emma said, her military training warring with her diplomatic role. The social integration reports. The connections forming between our people. She didn't need to elaborate. What had started as professional cooperation between humans and Luminari had evolved into genuine friendships, and in some cases, deeper bonds. The Luminari's natural empathy and humans' adaptability created relationships that transcended species barriers. Marcus pulled up another set of scans. The hormone profiles are fascinating. When humans and Luminari spend time together, both species show increased levels of bonding hormones. It's as if our biochemistry naturally synchronizes. Our ancestors spoke of this, Lyra said softly. They called it the resonance, a theoretical perfect biological compatibility with another species. We thought it was just a myth. Outside the lab, the integration city bustled with activity. Human construction crews worked alongside Luminari engineers, combining their technologies to create structures that were both beautiful and functional. In the medical center, human doctors learned about Luminari healing techniques while sharing their own medical knowledge. The children were the most remarkable example of integration. Human and Luminari young played together in specially designed parks, where Luminari children taught their human friends to create simple light patterns, while human children introduced them to Earth games and sports. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Security report, Emma said, switching to her military role. We've detected 3 attempts at unauthorized access to the perimeter this week, mostly curious civilians, but one group had sophisticated scanning equipment. Lara's markings darkened with concern. The Vorax aren't the only ones who might see us as valuable. Earth governments, private organizations. The United Earth Defense Force stands firm, Emma assured her. Your people are under our protection. As if to emphasize the point, a squadron of new hybrid fighters streaked across the sky. Earth aircraft modified with Luminari light drive technology. The base's defenses now included both human and Luminari systems, creating overlapping layers of protection. That evening, Marcus found himself in the community dining hall, a massive space where humans and Luminari shared meals together. He watched as a young Luminari woman taught a group of human children how to create light sculptures with their food, while nearby, human chefs learned about Luminari cuisine. Beautiful, isn't it? Sarah Chen had appeared beside him, still technically the base commander, but now more of a city administrator. Did you ever imagine first contact would lead to this? Before Marcus could respond, alarms blared across the base. Not the hostile invasion warning, but something else, medical emergency protocols. Dr. Rivera to Medical Bay 1, the announcement system called Priority 1. Marcus ran, Sarah close behind him. They found Emma already there, supporting a Luminari woman who appeared to be in distress. But her markings weren't showing pain. They were pulsing with an intensity they'd never seen before. Her readings, the medical text said, gesturing to the displays. They're off the charts, but not in a dangerous way. It's like her entire cellular structure is evolving. Laura burst into the room, her own markings glowing in response. The resonance, she whispered. It's not just compatibility, it's transformation. The Luminari woman's markings stabilized, and when she opened her eyes, they held a new depth of color. But what stunned everyone into silence was the subtle glow now emanating from the human doctor who had been treating her, his skin showing the faintest traces of luminary-like patterns. "This changes everything," Sarah said quietly. Marcus looked at his readings, then at the gathered faces, human and luminary, all showing the same mix of wonder and concern. "No," he replied. "This was always meant to be. We're not just sharing a planet anymore. We're evolving together." As night fell over the desert facility, more reports came in. Similar incidents were occurring wherever humans and luminary worked closely together. It wasn't dangerous or harmful. It was as if both species were gradually adapting to enhance their compatibility. In her private quarters, Sarah Chen made a secure call to United Earth Command. "Sir," she reported, "I believe we need to reclassify the luminary situation. This isn't just an immigration or refugee matter anymore. This is the beginning of something unprecedented in human history." The integration of the luminary was reshaping both species, creating something entirely new. But as the stars wheeled overhead, carrying the possible threat of the Vorax, one question remained. Would this transformation happen quickly enough to face what was coming? Looking at the shimmering lights of the combined human-luminary city, Sarah chose to believe it would. After all, humanity had always been at its best when adapting to change, and now they weren't adapting alone. The first wave. 6 months into the luminary integration, the Nevada facility witnessed something that would forever change both species. Dr. Marcus Rivera stood in Medical Bay 3, surrounded by holographic displays showing what many had suspected but none had dared to predict. "Confirm these readings," he ordered, his voice barely above a whisper. The medical team, both human and luminary, worked frantically at their stations. Before them, in a specialized medical pod, lay Marina Santos, one of the human luminary liaison officers, and beside her, her luminary partner, Lyra. The readings were unmistakable. Marina was pregnant. "This is unprecedented," Dr. Kira, the leading luminary medical expert, said as she studied the scans. Her silver markings pulsed with excitement. "The embryo shows perfect genetic fusion. Both human and luminary DNA, completely stable." Word spread through the facility like wildfire. Marina and Lyra weren't alone. Over the next few days, 12 more cases were confirmed. All involved couples where one partner was human and the other luminary. What astounded the medical teams wasn't just the pregnancies themselves, but the perfect viability of each embryo. Sarah Chen called an emergency meeting of the facility's leadership council. The conference room buzzed with tension and excitement. "What we're seeing isn't just reproduction," Marcus explained, projecting the latest data. "It's evolutionary advancement. The embryos show characteristics of both species, but they're not simple hybrids. There's something new." Emma Parker, now visibly pregnant herself, sat beside her luminary partner, Nova. "The real question is, what does this mean for our future?" Lyra, who had become Earth's primary luminary representative, stepped forward. "Our ancient texts spoke of this, the Great Joining. We thought it was myth, a story of how our species might one day find its perfect complement. We never imagined. The implications were staggering. The luminaries' genetic instability, which had plagued their species for generations, was being naturally corrected through combination with human DNA. Meanwhile, human genetic structures were being enhanced by luminary bioluminescent properties. But not everyone welcomed the news. "We're getting reports of protests," Emma reported, her military training evident in her clipped tones. "Some human religious groups are calling it an abomination. Others are demanding access to luminary genetic material for their own research." Sarah Chen's response was immediate. "Double the security patrols. No unauthorized personnel get within 10 miles of this facility. These families are under our protection." The pregnant couples were moved to a special wing of the medical center, where teams of human and luminary doctors monitored their progress around the clock. The pregnancies progressed faster than human normal, but slower than luminary standard, a perfect middle ground. Marcus spent countless hours in his lab, studying the genetic miracle unfolding before him. "Look at this," he said one evening, showing Sarah the latest scans. The hybrid embryos show signs of both species' strengths: human adaptability, luminary energy manipulation, and something entirely new. The something new became apparent when Marina gave birth to the first hybrid child. The baby girl, named Aurora, had skin that shifted between human tones and luminary lavender, with gentle patterns of light that responded to her emotions. But most remarkably, she could naturally manipulate electromagnetic fields, an ability neither species possessed individually. "She's perfect," Marina whispered, holding her daughter while Lyra's markings glowed with joy. The baby's first cry had caused all the lights in the medical bay to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. More births followed. Each hybrid child showed unique combinations of human and luminary traits, but all shared one common feature: they were stronger, healthier, and more capable than either parent species had been alone. The children's development was accelerated, but not unnaturally so. By 3 months, Aurora could create complex light patterns and showed signs of telepathic ability, something that had been theoretical in pure luminary. Other hybrid children demonstrated similar advances. "They're the bridge," Lyra explained during a council meeting, "not just between our species, but to the next stage of evolution for both." But with the joy came new challenges. The facility's sensors, enhanced with luminary technology, detected increasing activity in the outer solar system. Strange energy signatures that couldn't be natural. "The Vorax will come," Nova said during a private meeting with Sarah and Marcus. "They hunted us across the galaxy for our abilities. When they discover what we've created here." Sarah's response was firm. "Then we'll be ready. These children aren't just the future of our species, they're our greatest defense." The facility expanded its military training program, combining human tactical knowledge with luminary energy manipulation. The hybrid fighters, piloted by human luminary teams, proved more effective than anything either species had created alone. But the most significant development came from an unexpected source. The hybrid children, now numbering over 30, showed an innate ability to work together in ways that transcended normal cooperation. When in groups, they could create energy fields that could shield entire buildings, communicate telepathically across vast distances, and manipulate matter in ways that defied physics. "It's like they're completing a circuit that neither of our species could code alone," Marcus observed, watching a group of hybrid children playing what looked like soccer, except the ball was a sphere of pure energy they controlled with their minds. One evening, as the desert facility glowed with the combined light of human technology and luminary energy, Sarah stood with Lyra on the observation deck. Below them, human and luminary families mingled freely, their hybrid children creating displays of light that danced against the darkening sky. "When we first arrived," Lyra said softly, "we hoped only for sanctuary. Instead, we found our destiny." Sarah watched as Aurora, now 6 months old, created a miniature galaxy of light above her crib, her parents, one human, one luminary, watching with pride. "No," she replied, "we found our shared destiny." But even as they celebrated these new beginnings, the strange signals from the outer solar system grew stronger. The Vorax were coming, drawn by the energy signatures they couldn't resist. But this time, they wouldn't find a peaceful race unable to defend itself. They would find 2 species united, transformed, and ready to protect their shared future. And their children, these remarkable hybrid children, might just be the key to surviving what was coming. As the sun set over the Nevada desert, casting the facility in shades of gold and purple, Sarah Chen made a decision. It was time to take their defensive preparations to the next level. The future of 2 species, and their remarkable children, depended on it. The storm approaches. The first warning came on a quiet Tuesday morning. Deep space sensors, enhanced with luminary technology, detected a massive energy surge at the edge of the solar system. Commander Sarah Chen was reviewing hybrid defense training protocols when the alert came through. Multiple objects entering the Kuiper belt, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. Energy signatures match luminary records of Vorax vessels. Sarah's response was immediate. Initiate Protocol Omega. All civilians to designated shelters. Combat teams to their stations. She turned to Emma Parker, now 8 months pregnant, her skin showing faint luminary markings. Get the children to the secured inner facility. The Nevada base transformed from a peaceful research center into a military stronghold within minutes. Hybrid defense systems activated, creating layered shields of both physical and energy barriers. The strange, beautiful architecture now revealed its dual purpose. Every graceful arch and crystalline tower was part of an integrated defense network. Dr. Marcus Rivera hurried through the medical wing, organizing emergency responses. All non-essential research suspended, he ordered. Priority 1 is supporting our defense forces. In the Central Command Center, Lyra and other luminary elders gathered with Earth's military leadership. The holographic display showed the approaching Vorax fleet, 15 massive warships, each larger than anything humanity had ever built. They're following the energy signatures, Lyra explained, her markings pulsing with anxiety. Our children, the hybrids, they're broadcasting power levels the Vorax can't resist. But this time, Earth was ready. The past months hadn't been spent solely on integration and research. Every discovery, every advancement had been incorporated into their defenses. Aurora, now 9 months old, sat in a specially designed chamber with other hybrid children. Their combined abilities strengthened the base's shields, while their unique consciousness linked the human and luminary defenders in ways no communication system could match. The first line of defense is ready, Sarah announced. Across the solar system, automated defense platforms, built with combined human and luminary technology, activated. Each platform contained a quantum core powered by harvested hybrid energy, making them virtually invisible until they struck. The Vorax fleet encountered the first platform near Jupiter. The resulting explosion temporarily blinded every sensor in the solar system. When visibility returned, 3 Vorax ships were gone. They'll adapt, Nova warned, her tactical expertise showing. The Vorax always adapt. She was right. The remaining ships split into smaller groups, using Jupiter's massive gravity well to shield their approach. But Earth had more surprises waiting. Mars Base 1, recently established using luminary terraforming technology, launched its contingent of hybrid fighters. Each craft was piloted by a human luminary pair, their combined abilities allowing maneuvers that defied physics. The space battle that followed would be studied for generations. Hybrid fighters danced between Vorax energy beams, their pilots linked consciousness, allowing perfect coordination. When 2 or more fighters worked together, they could generate energy fields that cut through Vorax shields like they didn't exist. But the Vorax were feared for a reason. Their ships began releasing swarms of autonomous hunters, biomechanical devices designed to track and capture luminary energy signatures. The hunters ignored conventional defenses, focusing solely on their prey. They're targeting the children, Marcus realized, watching the tactical display. The hunters were converging on Earth, drawn to the hybrid children's unique energy patterns. Sarah Chen made a decision that would change the course of the battle. Activate the resonance protocol, she ordered. Deep beneath the Nevada facility, in a chamber that combined the most advanced technology of both species, Aurora and the other hybrid children joined hands. Their combined consciousness, amplified by specially designed crystals, reached out across space. Every human luminary pair felt it, a surge of power and connection that transcended normal bonds. The hybrid fighters' capabilities suddenly doubled, then tripled. The defense platforms pulsed with new energy. Even the base's shields took on a new configuration, layers of light and force interweaving in impossible patterns. The Vorax hunters, programmed to capture luminary energy, found themselves overwhelmed by something they couldn't comprehend. The hybrid energy signatures weren't just strong, they were adaptive, changing faster than the hunters could analyze. In space, the remaining Vorax ships faced a transformed enemy. Hybrid fighters now moved in perfect synchronization, their human pilot's intuition combined with luminary energy manipulation, creating tactics that couldn't be predicted or countered. "They're retreating," Rodriguez announced, disbelief in his voice. The massive Vorax ships, terror of countless systems, were turning away from Earth. But victory came with a price. The hybrid children, their powers drained from the massive effort, needed immediate medical attention. The human luminary pairs who had fought so bravely showed signs of accelerated integration, their bodies adapting to handle the enormous energies they had channeled. In the aftermath, as medical teams treated the wounded and repair crews assessed the damage, Sarah Chen stood with Lyra in the children's recovery ward. Aurora, exhausted but safe, slept peacefully, her skin shifting between human and luminary tones even in sleep. "The Vorax will return," Lyra said softly. "They've never been defeated before. They want to know how." Sarah watched as human and luminary medical staff worked together, their movements perfectly coordinated after months of integration. "Let them come," she replied. "Every day we grow stronger together. Every child born, every new bond formed, makes us harder to defeat." Marcus joined them, carrying latest scans of the hybrid children. "Their powers are still growing," he reported. "What they did today, linking everyone together, amplifying our abilities, it's just the beginning." Outside the base, the Nevada desert glowed with auroral lights, an aftereffect of the massive energies that had been channeled. Human and luminary families emerged from the shelters, their relief and joy manifesting in spontaneous celebrations. Emma Parker, supported by her luminary partner, watched the lights with tears in her eyes. "Our children will never know what it's like to be just one species," she said, hands resting on her pregnant belly. "They'll always be both and more." The victory of the Vorax marked a turning point. Earth was no longer just a sanctuary for the luminary. It was the birthplace of a new species, one that combined the best of both races and promised even more. As night fell over the Nevada facility, the hybrid children slept, their dreams creating gentle patterns of light that danced across the walls. In orbit, hybrid fighters patrolled, their human and luminary pilots now bound together by something deeper than duty. The Vorax would return, but Earth would be ready. Each day brought new advances, new bonds, new children who carried the future in their very genes. The integration that had begun as a desperate bid for survival had become something far more, the next step in both species' evolution. Sarah Chen made one final round of the facility before retiring for the night. In every face she passed, human, luminary, and hybrid, she saw the same determination. They had faced their first test as a united people, and they had prevailed. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Evolution's edge. 1 year after the first Vorax attack, Earth had transformed beyond recognition. The Nevada facility had become just one of 12 major integration centers spread across the globe. From the underwater cities in the Pacific to the terraformed research stations on Mars, humanity and the luminary had created a civilization unlike anything either species had imagined. Sarah Chen, now General Chen of the United Earth Luminary Defense Force, stood in the new Global Command Center beneath Mount Fuji. Holographic displays showed the status of every major installation defense system and the growing fleet of hybrid ships. "Status report on Project Genesis," she requested, watching as Aurora, now 2 years old, led a class of younger hybrid children through their daily exercises. The chamber they practiced in sparkled with manifestations of their power, light, energy, and something else that defied conventional physics. Dr. Marcus Rivera, his skin now permanently showing faint luminary patterns, brought up the latest data. The third-generation hybrids are showing abilities we never predicted. They're not just combining our species' traits, they're creating entirely new ones. The evidence was undeniable. Aurora's generation, the first hybrids, had mastered energy manipulation and telepathic linking. The second generation, born 6 months later, demonstrated the ability to manipulate gravity itself. Now, the third generation was showing signs of even more extraordinary capabilities. They can see possible futures, Lyra explained, her markings glowing with pride as she watched her granddaughter Aurora teaching the younger children. Not just predict, actually perceive multiple temporal pathways. This new ability had proven crucial. The hybrid children had provided warning of 3 attempted Vorax incursions in the past month alone, allowing Earth's defenses to prevent the attacks before they began. Emma Parker, now head of the Hybrid Education Program, entered the command center with her own daughter Luna. At 18 months old, Luna could create stable wormholes between any 2 points in space, a capability that had revolutionized Earth's defense strategies. The children are ready for the next phase, Emma announced. They want to try linking with the planetary defense grid. Sarah hesitated. The planetary defense grid was their most ambitious project yet, a network of satellites and stations that could theoretically create a shield around the entire solar system. But its power requirements were enormous. Are we sure they can handle it? Sarah asked, remembering how drained the children had been after the first Vorax battle. Marcus brought up new medical scans. Their energy capacity has grown exponentially. What exhausted them a year ago is now as simple as breathing. And when they work together, he didn't need to finish. Everyone had seen the footage from last week's test, when a group of hybrid children had temporarily lifted an entire mountain simply by combining their abilities. There's something else, Lyra added, her voice carrying that tone that always preceded major revelations. The resonance isn't just affecting the children anymore. Every human luminary pair, every combined family unit, they're all evolving. The evidence was visible in the command center itself. Nearly every human present showed some degree of luminary markings, while the luminary had developed more human-like characteristics. The integration was accelerating, creating something entirely new. The Vorax won't stop coming, Nova said, entering the command center with tactical updates. Our long-range sensors detect them gathering a massive fleet. They're calling in forces from every sector they control. Sarah studied the tactical displays. The Vorax fleet was indeed massive, hundreds of ships, far more than their first attack. But Earth was no longer the same target. Begin Phase Omega, Sarah ordered. Authorization Chen Alpha 7. Throughout the solar system, hidden installations activated. The Mars colonies revealed their true purpose, not just research stations, but massive defense platforms. The underwater cities began generating quantum fields that could disrupt Vorax targeting systems. And in orbit, the new hybrid fleet took position. But the real surprise was yet to come. Aurora stepped forward, her small hand reaching for the central control crystal. The other hybrid children joined her, forming a circle. As they joined hands, their combined consciousness reached out, touching every human and luminary mind in the solar system. The sensation was indescribable. Every person, regardless of their original species, found themselves connected in a vast network of shared consciousness. But unlike before, this wasn't just for defense, it was for transformation. This is what we were meant to become, Aurora's voice echoed in everyone's mind. Not just 2 species living together, but something entirely new. The power began to build. Every human luminary pair, every hybrid child, every combined family unit added their energy to the growing field. The planetary defense grid activated, but not as designed. Instead of creating a simple shield, it began generating a field that defied current physics. The children, Marcus whispered, watching his instruments go haywire. They're not just protecting Earth, they're changing the fundamental nature of space around us. The transformation was visible from space. Earth and its surrounding space began to glow with a light that existed in multiple dimensions. The hybrid fleet, crewed by human luminary pairs, found their ships responding to thought alone. When the Vorax fleet finally arrived, they found something they couldn't comprehend. Earth wasn't just defended, it existed in a state they couldn't fully perceive or attack. Their weapons passed through the new defense field as if it wasn't there, while their sensors couldn't lock onto any targets. They can't fight what they don't understand, Aurora explained, her young voice carrying ancient wisdom, and they can't understand what we've become. The Vorax fleet hung in space, their fearsome weapons useless against this new form of existence. Earth's hybrid fleet moved among them like ghosts, their crews operating in perfect harmony with their ships and each other. Sarah Chen watched from the command center as humanity's greatest threat found itself obsolete. The Vorax, who had terrorized galaxies with their technological supremacy, were faced with an enemy that had transcended technology itself. "Send the message," she ordered. Throughout the Vorax fleet, every screen and communication device displayed the same image: Aurora and the hybrid children, surrounded by their human and luminary parents, all glowing with power that defied explanation. "You sought to harvest our power," Aurora's voice echoed across space. "But true power comes from unity, not conquest. Leave this space. Evolution cannot be captured or controlled." The Vorax fleet retreated, their mighty ships seeming almost primitive compared to what Earth had become. But as they fled, they carried with them something more dangerous than defeat: understanding. For the first time in their history, the Vorax had encountered something they couldn't dominate or destroy. They had witnessed the next step in evolution, not through conquest or technology, but through cooperation and love. As the enemy fleet vanished into deep space, Sarah Chen looked at the assembled faces in the command center: human, luminary, and hybrid, all now part of something greater than their original species. "What now?" she asked Aurora, who stood in the center of it all, her presence both childlike and ancient. The little girl smiled, creating a display of possible futures that danced in the air around them. "Now," she said, "we really begin to grow. Beyond the stars." 5 years after the final Vorax retreat, Earth had become something unprecedented in the galaxy's history. The integration of humans and luminary had created not just a new species, but a new form of civilization that defied traditional understanding. General Sarah Chen stood in the observation dome of Unity Station, a massive structure hovering in high Earth orbit. Below her, the planet glowed with an otherworldly light, the visible manifestation of the quantum fields that now permeated their society. Cities on Earth no longer just existed in physical space, they occupied multiple dimensions simultaneously, a feat made possible by the continuing evolution of their combined species. "The gateway is ready for its first test," Dr. Marcus Rivera announced, his luminary markings glowing softly in the dim light. Over the years, the distinction between human and luminary had become increasingly subtle. Nearly everyone now showed characteristics of both species, while the hybrid children had evolved into something entirely new. The Gateway was their most ambitious project yet, a massive structure built near Jupiter that could theoretically create stable passages through both space and time. It was Aurora's design, though she was now 7 years old and preferred to be called by her full name, Aurora Chen Lyra, honoring both her human and luminary heritage. "All stations report ready." Emma Parker's voice came through the quantum link. She didn't need traditional communications anymore. None of them did. The genetic integration had given everyone some degree of telepathic ability, though the hybrid children still far surpassed their parents. Sarah watched as the gateway activated, its massive rings beginning to spin. Energy patterns that would have been impossible 5 years ago danced between the structures. "Status report," she requested, more out of habit than necessity. She could feel the operation's progress through the shared consciousness they all now possessed. "The quantum field is stable," Aurora reported from her position in the gateway's control center. we're detecting resonance patterns from at least 3 parallel dimensions. At 7, she looked like a normal child, but her presence in the quantum field was vast and complex. The test wasn't just about traveling through space. After defeating the Vorax, they had discovered something far more significant. That evolution hadn't just changed them physically, it had altered their relationship with reality itself. The hybrid children could perceive and interact with multiple dimensions, seeing possibilities and pathways that existed beyond normal space-time. "We're receiving signals," Lyra announced, her aged face bearing the wisdom of both species. "The other civilizations are responding to our invitation." This was the true purpose of the Gateway. After evolving beyond the Vorax threat, they had detected other advanced civilizations in the galaxy, not through traditional means, but through the quantum consciousness their children had developed. Many of these civilizations had achieved their own forms of transcendence, existing in states that conventional science couldn't explain. First contact protocols are ready, Nova confirmed from her position in the defense grid. Though they hadn't faced military threats in years, they maintained their defensive capabilities, not out of fear, but responsibility. The Gateway's energy patterns shifted, forming what looked like a liquid mirror in space. Through it, they could see something. Not ships or signals in any traditional sense, but patterns of consciousness that indicated the presence of other evolved beings. "They're beautiful," Aurora whispered, her voice carrying through the quantum link. Through her perceptions, shared with everyone through their connected consciousness, they could see the true nature of their visitors, beings of pure energy and thought, who had transcended physical form generations ago. The first exchange wasn't conducted through words or even telepathy, but through a direct sharing of consciousness. The evolved human luminary civilization met their galactic neighbors in a space between dimensions, where physical laws held no meaning. "They want to share their knowledge," Aurora translated for those still more comfortable with traditional communication. "They've been watching us, waiting for us to reach this stage. Our evolution, it wasn't just random. The compatibility between humans and luminary, it was part of a greater pattern." Sarah felt it through the quantum link, the vast network of evolved civilizations that existed beyond conventional space-time. Some had achieved transcendence through biological fusion like them, others through technological means, and some through paths that defied categorization. "We're being invited to join the Council of Evolved Worlds," Lyra announced, her markings pulsing with joy. "They believe our path, the union of two species through love and choice rather than force or necessity, offers unique insights to the galaxy." The implications were staggering. Earth had gone from a relatively isolated world to a key player in a cosmic community that existed beyond normal space and time. The hybrid children, with their ability to perceive and manipulate multiple dimensions, would be their guides into this new era. "Show them," Aurora suggested, and through the quantum link, every human luminary pair, every hybrid child, every member of their transformed civilization shared their story. They showed how they had turned a refugee crisis into an evolutionary leap, how love had proven stronger than fear, and how the combination of two species had created something greater than either could have become alone. The response from the evolved civilizations was overwhelming, a surge of acceptance and welcome that transcended normal sensation. The Gateway hummed with energy as new connections formed, linking Earth to a network of consciousness that spanned the galaxy. Sarah Chen, who had overseen this transformation from its beginning, felt tears in her eyes. "What happens now?" she asked, though she could already sense the answer through the quantum link. Aurora created a display of swirling energy patterns, a map not of space, but of possibility. "Now we help others," she said. "There are more species out there, some running from threats like the Vorax, others standing at the edge of their own evolution. We can show them another way." The Gateway would become more than just a portal through space. It would be a beacon for other civilizations, showing them that evolution didn't have to come through conflict or conquest. The human luminary integration had proven that the greatest advances came through cooperation, understanding, and love. As the first official exchanges with the evolved civilizations began, Sarah looked at the gathered faces in Unity Station, human, luminary, hybrid, all now part of something far greater than their original species had ever dreamed possible. "We never imagined this," she said to Lyra, who stood beside her watching their grandchild Aurora guide their civilization into a new era. "When you first arrived in that damaged ship, seeking sanctuary." "Perhaps not consciously," Lyra replied, her markings creating patterns that danced with Sarah's own. "But in our hearts, in our genes, we knew. We were always meant to find each other." Beyond the station, Earth glowed with the light of infinite possibility. The hybrid children played in fields of quantum energy, creating and exploring dimensions beyond normal perception. Human luminary couples continued to bring new children into their expanded universe, each generation showing new abilities and insights. They had survived the Vorax not by becoming better warriors, but by becoming something the Vorax couldn't comprehend: a civilization based on unity rather than dominance, on evolution through love rather than force. As the gateway stabilized its connections to other evolved worlds, Aurora sent a final message through the quantum link, reaching every mind in their transformed society. "This isn't the end of our journey. It's just the beginning of our next great adventure." The stars seemed to shine brighter, as if reflecting the light of endless possibility that now emanated from Earth. Humanity and the luminary had not just survived, they had transcended, becoming something that would help guide the galaxy's evolution for generations to come. And somewhere in the quantum fields that now connected all things, the first human luminary couple and their hybrid child still served as a reminder that the greatest power in the universe wasn't technology or physical force. It was the simple choice to reach across the stars and embrace something different, something new, something wonderful. The future wasn't just bright, it was infinite.